This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who were our first teachers and storytellers. I extend my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome to the Habit Nerd podcast. I'm Dr. Bree Hearn, and if you're interested in habits, those tiny, powerful behaviours that shape who we are and what we achieve, you've absolutely landed in the right place. Join me each week as I interview a wide range of experts, dive into evidence-based strategies, and give you practical tools to help you build habits that stick and break the ones that hold you back. Hi there. Today on the Habit Nerd podcast, we're diving into the truth about consistency, self-trust, and what it really takes to care for your health in midlife without burnout, perfectionism, or starting over every Monday. My guest is Courtney Townley. Now, Courtney is a health and self-leadership coach. She's a speaker and host of the top-rated Grace and Grit podcast. Courtney has spent over 3 decades in the wellness industry as a nutrition coach, a personal trainer, and a certified life coach. And through all of that experience, she's discovered something really powerful. Deep health isn't about following someone else's rules. It's about rewriting your own. Courtney works with midlife women who are tired of diet culture, overwhelmed by conflicting health advice, and ready for more compassion and in a more aligned way forward. Her recently released book, The Consistency Code, offers a totally fresh approach to well-being. It's one that's built on self-trust, emotional intelligence, and simple, adaptable practices that help you realign rather than start over. Courtney brings a blend of science, straight talk, and so much wisdom. And I know that you're going to walk away with tools that you can use immediately. So Courtney, a big welcome to the Habit Nerd. Thank you for being here. And we're so excited for the conversation.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. So Courtney, what is a habit that you have that plays a positive spillover role in your life?
I would say for me, well, there's a few, but I would say one of the most consistent things over my lifeline has been movement. I was born into the world a dancer, and I've always had a hunger for movement. I think it's a very primal instinct, right, as a human, but it's just my salvation. It's the thing that always brings me back to center, gets me out of my head, back into my body. And I definitely notice that it's one of the things that if I neglect it or abandon it, or ignore it for a while, I feel it. It's one of the things that if I don't get it, it makes me feel really misaligned fast. So it's just that reminder that when I'm feeling itchy or antsy or anxious, going for a walk or taking the time to exercise, if you will, but it doesn't need to look like exercise. It just needs to look like moving my body.
I really appreciate that. I was thinking about this in a different context last night. I think there's movement as a habit, routine, exercise, going to the gym or going for your regular walk or whatever. But then there's physical movement to move your mental state. And I think you kind of straddled both there in that answer that, sometimes we can feel overwhelmed or stuck or stressed, and moving is what gets us through that. And then the other side of that is that habit that obviously makes you feel like yourself, and that is, a consistent movement practice. So is that, is that
absolutely accurate? You speak to it beautifully. And I think for me, it's I have learned the hard way that I can't really outthink my way out of emotion, right? I need to move it. I need to process it. And movement is such an accessible way for me to do that. And it doesn't always look the same. Sometimes I need to go for a run. Sometimes I need to punch a pillow. Sometimes I need to just lay on the floor or pet my dog, but it usually involves movement.
Yeah, I love that. It's a real light bulb moment for a lot of people. I heard it recently that even changing the physical state of your face, so smiling, even if you don't feel there's anything to smile about, there's something about, the physical muscles in your face and the message that gives your brain that, okay, it's all right, we can calm down here, or, so you're right. It doesn't have to be, oh my goodness, I'm in the middle of work, I don't have time to get my sneakers on and go for a run. It can be shaking your body out or putting some music on and literally moving through it. And it's so accessible, as you say, to everybody. So that's a great one. Thank you, Courtney.
Definitely. And changing posture, right? I notice if I'm midway through my day and I'm kind of slumping over my desk or my face is like leaning into the computer,
Mm.
it's no coincidence that I'm also just kind of feeling the pull of my energy. It's like I'm
Mm.
leaking energy. And so if I have a standing desk, which has been a godsend. So if I
Mm.
just raise my desk, I open a window, I kind of take a break from the computer screen for a few minutes, but really just shifting my posture, especially when I'm
Mm.
feeling even like insecure or I'm nervous to speak in front of people. Like most of my coaching calls, I'm standing up because it
Interesting.
just gives me kind of a sense of power and
There's a presence
groundedness.
in the body. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, these are very, very important reminders. Sometimes I find myself just like slackening my jaw. Like I can feel
Mhm.
like even that's enough to go, you're holding tension,
Yeah.
just bring it down, drop my shoulders. And as you say, that power pose, is
Yeah.
posture is another way to completely move through, whatever that feeling of anxiety or stuckness or overwhelm or whatever
Yep.
is. So yeah, I love it. Thanks, Courtney. What
Yeah.
about the opposite? Is there a habit that you're currently trying to move away from?
Yeah. It's funny because I've been sharing this a lot inside of my community lately about like obviously in the world of behavior change, we all know that the goal is to respond rather than react. And we've all heard that phrase, the power of the pause.
Mm,
But I don't know that I've ever practiced it to the extent that I have at this point in my life. And what I
okay.
mean by that is I don't know where you are age wise, but midlife, like I have
Mm,
less resources than I've ever had. So
yes.
I have less energy, I have less tolerance, I have, less ability to manage stress.
Mm,
And so the gift in that is that it kind of forces me to pause
right.
because being angry or being really reactive takes a lot of resources. It takes
Mm,
a lot of energy, and we forget
mm,
that.
mm,
And we often hear the message that, well, reactivity is, when we're we just feel the urgent need to fix something and we
mm,
haven't thought something through, and all of that is true too. But I just noticed that for me, it's not just like a simple pause of a few breaths, although that obviously can work too in certain
mm.
situations. It's really an extended pause.
Okay.
So, when I have a business decision, when I'm really agitated by something that's happening in a relationship, I have a difficult conversation that I need to have, like anything of that nature, I'm going to give myself the evening. I'm going to give myself maybe even a couple days.
Mm,
Because when I circle back to that same thing after I've paused for that extent of time, I feel so different. I feel so much more grounded. I'm looking at it more clearly. And it's kind of like letting go of this idea that everything needs to be fixed in this moment,
yeah.
right? Like I don't really have the power to fix it in this moment. And I used to think I just needed like, give me an hour, right?
Mm,
Or I'll
mm,
respond to that client by the end of the day. But what
mm,
I'm learning for me, and this, I realize that we're all different, but for me, giving myself permission to extend the pause is better
mm.
for everybody in my orbit because I just come at it feeling like, okay, like I don't like that this is happening, but I like how I'm showing up to solve it. And I can't do that within the first few hours that it's happening.
Oh, I love that. It's my goodness, do I need that reminder? You're very kind. You're very kind, Courtney. In my mid 40s, I am very much identifying as midlife,
Yeah.
and the diminishing resources that you talk about is absolutely relevant to me, and I know lots of our listeners as well. I
Yeah.
think I've been reflecting on this. Lael Stone, I don't know if you've come across Lael before. I interviewed her a little while
No.
ago, and she's posted something online yesterday or the day before, and it's about sleep on it is a really powerful phrase. So is eat on it. So is shower on it. And it's exactly what you're saying there, because I feel like as a culture and probably as kind of, women who have gotten somewhere by being quote unquote high functioning,
Mhm.
we wear this badge of quick decisions, efficiency, almost it's ingrained in us as a positive because we've been able to get so much done. But
Yeah.
actually, the amount of times when I've had exactly that experience where I've made a decision after 24 hours or after 48 hours, and I'm able to say to myself, thank goodness I didn't do that a day ago, because, that would have had such a different outcome. Or the flip side, I've made a decision or I've reacted to something when I've been not in a state that, would be the most productive way to do that. and I've made a mess of it, you know, and
Yeah.
2 days later I'm seeing things completely differently, or I'm, you know, I have more empathy or more clarity or just more, you know, understanding of the situation. So that again, that's a very, very good one. So just extending the pause.
Yeah, it's
Love it.
a the again, I used to practice just to give myself a couple breath thing, or I'd go
Mm,
outside, or I'd change my, where I was environmentally. But I really just don't think it was enough for me. Like now
mm,
that I'm really extending the pause, I feel like, wow, like I'm really so much more discerning about what deserves my energy and what
mm,
doesn't. And that
mm,
has been not just a gift to everybody in my orbit, because of course I'm less reactive, but it's a
mm.
gift to me because I'm
Yeah,
not wasting energy and resources on things that don't need drama, right? Or don't
yeah.
need like big explosive responses.
Mm,
And that's it's so it's a win-win. I mean, it's a win-win for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Oh, I so agree. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, in terms of if something needs a response quickly, there's nothing wrong with saying, thank you for letting me know about this. I'm going to come back to you in 24 hours. Like it's okay to do the sort of I need some time to think about it, acknowledge it, but that I'm going to need, and just understanding that tomorrow things will look different after you've had a sleep and you've eaten, you know, whatever it
Yeah.
is, those very core needs. So yeah, that's a very, I often say to my guests, my goodness, people come in just at the right time. They drop in, and it's funny. You and I were saying off air, we've been trying to get this interview happening for a couple of months now, actually,
Yeah.
back and forth. We've both cancelled, you know, kids and work and time differences and all sorts of things. I think exactly what you've just said at exactly this time is when I've needed it. So
Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
um,
And I think we don't do it. I know I didn't do it for a long time, not just because of my own unwillingness to feel discomfort, but because
mhm.
I felt like I needed to control everyone else's discomfort. So
Mm,
telling somebody that, you know what, I'm not in a place to be able to answer this right now, but if you give me until the end of the week, I will give it the attention it deserves and I'll circle back
mm,
and give you an answer.
mm,
They may not like that in the moment because they're really itching for the answer,
mm,
but I
mm,
know that I can't give them an answer that keeps me in integrity with myself unless
mm.
I do that. And so, in the end, and once I give them a quality answer and we talk through it, I think they appreciate that I took my time. Um,
I think so too.
yeah. So, I just don't treat everything like it's so urgent because what you
Mm,
realize is once you start practicing it, so very little is actually urgent.
mm. Oh, it's so true. Urgent and important are two
Yeah.
completely different things, aren't they? And
Yep.
somebody else's urgent isn't necessarily your urgent. So, yeah,
Yes.
amazing. Now, Courtney, you say that health isn't about control, but about self-trust. On a
Mhm.
practical level, so working through the world every day, what does self-trust actually look like for a woman who's navigating midlife pressures and all that comes with that, you know, limited
Yeah.
bandwidth, shifting hormones, etc.?
I would say at the most like basic level, self-trust is doing what you said you would do, right? Not just for everybody else, but for yourself. So when you put yourself in your own schedule, right? If that even happens, because I know for a lot of women it doesn't, but if it happens, do you actually follow through? Because with my clients, the opposite is usually true. They'll put themselves in their calendar, but then that's the first thing that gets negotiated off the table. It's
Yeah,
the first thing that
yeah.
gets put off the on the back burner.
Mm,
Um, I would also say that self trust is having your own back no matter what happens. Like just
right.
trusting that I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'm making the best decision I can with the information that I have. And if it doesn't work out in the way that I hope it does, I'm going to be okay because I trust myself enough to be okay. Right?
Mm,
I'm not going to leave it up to the ethers and other people to decide how I should feel about something working out or not. Like I trust myself enough to get back on my feet, to try again, to figure this out in the long run. I may not get it right on the first go, and that's okay. I trust myself enough. Self-trust is also like really controlling the self narrative. I trust
mm,
myself not to be a jerk because I'm an imperfect human, right? Like
mm,
we're all imperfect. But how do you talk to yourself about your imperfections and about your failures and about your mistakes? Because a
yeah,
lot of women that I coach are horribly awful to themselves in that
yeah,
narrative. And
yes.
so, of course, they don't trust themselves because who wants to be in a room with someone who's constantly berating and bullying and tearing you down? So, I think self trust is liking who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Mm. Oh, that's so lovely. There's so much safety in that. The I really like the first part that you said. It's closing that loop on finishing something that you said that you wanted to
Yeah.
start, or holding on to the thing in the calendar that you wanted to do. There's a real integrity piece there. And I would imagine that for your clients, and that this would be true for me, I'm sure if I was one of your clients, that little proof points where that becomes true
Mhm.
is enough to buoy them along, that, oh, I can trust myself. Like my word is trustworthy
Yeah.
within my own head.
Yeah. One of the really simple exercises I have a lot of my clients do just to help them build self-trust is to keep a victory log. So at the end of every day, they just acknowledge, where did I show up for myself today? What
Mm,
were the hard moments where I didn't abandon myself, where I stayed true to the type of person I want to be, right? Like
mm,
there's a lot of ways to track our victories, our wins. And it seems like when I say it, I think a lot of women feel like, oh, that sounds nice, but I don't have time for that, right?
yeah,
And yet we have all this time to focus on everything we're doing wrong.
yeah, it's so true.
And so I always just remind people, like, if you just give equal bandwidth to the good,
Mm,
to the things you're
mm,
doing well, just
mm,
equal bandwidth. I'm not saying
yeah,
all the
50,
bandwidth,
50. Mm, mm,
but just 50-50, I bet you're going to feel different. I bet you're going to start feeling more confident and more capable and a little bit more resilient rather than just focusing on everything that could be going better all the time.
oh, I love it. And I would imagine that, say I did that practice for myself on the way home from work, or I'm on public transport thinking about that, I would imagine that training my brain to look for the victories would mean that I'll find more victories the next day. And then that helps. That's sort of like what you appreciate appreciates. And then that will help flip that nasty voice in my head to something that's more real and more helpful in terms of where I want to feel aligned.
The brain loves to prove itself right.
Hmm.
And so if you want to think about all the reasons why you're failing and life is hard and you'll never succeed and all of that, absolutely your brain's going to look for that evidence.
Mm.
But the
Yeah.
reverse is also true, right? That if I look for if I focus on all the things that might be possible for me and the skill sets I have to actually make those things possible and the people that I have in my life to help support that and where I
Mm.
showed up in a way that I feel good about today, the brain is also going to seek out more of that. And once you start tasting that just that 50-50 starts to move the needle, you obviously want and hunger to put more focus on the stuff that's actually useful to you rather than the things that are keeping you stuck.
I love it. And it's really actionable to think, even if it's just a couple of things, and then, as you say, half,
Yeah.
yeah, less unkindness. And I love that Jim Quick idea that if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. So,
You absolutely
you keep
do.
fighting for what's going to go wrong or has been going wrong, or why me, and this is so hard, then that's what you'll continue, to activate and look for and find evidence for. So I love that, just that really simple reminder you've given us, that your brain loves to be right, to prove itself right. So think it
It's
and
so
then
true.
grateful for it. Yeah.
And when it comes, I think, to behavior change, we have, I think, as humans, mastered talking ourselves out of it. Right? We
Mm,
have all kinds of ways of talking ourselves out of the work. I'm too tired. It's too hard. I don't know what to
mm,
do. I'm confused. Like we could go on and on.
so true.
And that skill set that I think a lot of people are missing is talking themselves into the work.
Into it. Yeah.
Because that too is a skill. Just like you've been
Mm,
practicing talking yourself out of it for 20, 30,
mm,
40 years, you
mm.
can learn at any age and stage how to start talking yourself into it. And I highly recommend people do that work because life gets way better when we're talking ourselves into the things that we want to be doing.
Yeah, that's such a powerful shift. And you're so right. I recognize that, an early workout, for example, I can find 10 excuses not to get out of bed, and they
Yep.
are good excuses.
Oh,
I can be
sure.
very intelligent about sleep is important. I didn't get as much as I needed last night. My work won't, I can give you the most intelligent, cognitively sound reasons not to get out of bed. But the other skill is talking myself into it. You are tired, but you will feel better after this workout. And you know what? You can go to bed tonight and have a great sleep, and that's great too. So that, but the first one, because that path is so well worn and because that neural pathway is so smooth, it does take some work. So it's a great reminder, and one that I'm going to take away. Absolutely.
And there's a difference, right? There's a difference between I always ask my clients this, like when they're sharing themselves, talking themselves out of something, I'll say, was it grace or was it an excuse? Because they are not the same thing. Grace is recognizing, wow, you know what? I have not slept well in 3 nights. And I haven't really been eating, I haven't been taking care of myself well. And so this morning I'm feeling really rough and I had a 6 a.m. workout scheduled, and I'm going to extend myself the grace of having a plan B. I'm going to go for a walk this afternoon. That is grace. That is saying, hey, you know what? You're low on resources. Maybe an aggressive workout isn't the best thing first thing in the morning today. Where an excuse is, oh, you know what? I haven't been taking care of myself. I really can't do anything today. Right? Like nothing extra and everything. Like I have work to do. I have the kids to, like, we start looking for the evidence that also to stack on to almost rationalize really why we can't do it. And that becomes an excuse. So and here's the thing, nobody knows but you. And this is why I always call health self-leadership, right? Health is really an exercise in self-leadership, because I don't know what you're dealing with. I mean, I could work with you for a really long time as a coach and still not know what you're dealing with really on a day-to-day basis. So it's having a level of integrity with yourself to really ask, am I making an excuse right now because I'm looking for a way to get out of the work? Or am I truly extending myself grace because that's what self-care really looks like in this moment?
I think, goodness, that's a powerful reminder. I think that's a question for me that will need some work, because I think I can flip the excuse into grace pretty quickly. Like I think,
Masters.
and perhaps our listeners are a little bit clearer on that and further along in this journey than I am. But my goodness, even that question is immensely helpful. Is this giving myself grace? And I think that, I'm going to go for a walk at lunchtime. Like I've got a break between 12 and 1, and I'll make sure I have my walking shoes at the front door and able to do that for 15 minutes, but I need half an hour sleep now, and that's going to be okay, as opposed to snoozing my alarm or getting on social media and then doing nothing for the rest of the day. That's a very different conversation, isn't it?
It really is. And 2 things that might help listeners, like with this whole concept, is number 1, when we commit to something like a habit that we're going, like I'm going to go for a walk every day for 20 minutes at lunch, right? Or 15 minutes at lunch. The thing that I always poke at my clients about is, what's the bare minimum that you're going to commit to? Because we always like to go to the extreme. I'm going to do an hour-long walk every day at lunch. No, you're not. Like, you're just not. Come on. So what's the bare minimum? Well, the bare minimum is 10 minutes. Awesome. So every day you're going to walk for a minimum of 10 minutes. If you walk more, great. But you're not going to walk less than 10 minutes. So if you didn't sleep well last night, you can still go for a 10-minute walk and you're going to be okay. The second part of it is like a plan B, right? Like just knowing that, okay, if I have a 6 a.m. workout scheduled, but I literally didn't sleep at all the night before, my plan B is going to be walking through the park for 45 minutes in the afternoon. It's gentler on my system, but I'm still giving my body that movement nourishment. And that's a great thing. So I think those 2 things can be helpful, like just knowing your bare minimum of the commitment, and then also having a plan B so you don't feel like you always have to hold the standard so high.
Oh, I love it. Both of those are extremely insightful. I think it's James Clear who talks about most people, when they're trying to embed a new habit, think about what they can do on their best day. But really, we should be thinking about what we can do on our worst day. And that's exactly what you just said about that floor version or the ceiling version of the habit. And so when we start at the ceiling version, we don't hit it, then that's when the nasty self-talk helps, and we prove to ourselves, why did we even think we could do that? And then, so I love it. And you would be, we really are good at saying, I'll go for a walk for 10 minutes. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 45 minutes. All of that is fine.
Yeah.
So it's, I love the consistency idea of consistency isn't 45 minutes, 7 days. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 20, as long as the identity piece is that, we're showing up. And I think the plan B is really supportive there, because it means that we're not dropping the habit altogether. As long as it doesn't hit the ground, we're fine.
Well, and it circles back to where we started, which is that keeping promises to yourself. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
This is how you keep promises to yourself, is you practice flexibility. You're not so rigid in what it's supposed to look like every day that you consistently fail. Right?
Yeah.
You're willing to extend the grace to allow it to look different based on the resources available, based on what else is happening in your life, but you're not willing to completely take your foot off the gas pedal.
And yeah, and try not to miss twice. If you have a bad day, try and get back on the horse the day after. Just to kind of keep that self-promise to yourself that this is something that's important to me.
Yeah, and the language matters a lot. I find a lot of women use that phrase, like, I have to start over. Okay, you're
Mm.
never starting over. You don't get that privilege. Like, none of us do. Like,
No,
we're already how many,
get,
years
yeah,
into our life, we don't get to start over, but we can resume. We can
reset.
reorient. We can realign,
Yeah.
and that's all it is. I always use the analogy of, if you were going to go to the grocery store today and there was a detour or you got lost, I guarantee you would not pull over on the side of the road and pitch a fit for 6 months. Right? Nobody does that. But that's how we treat our own behavior change.
Yeah,
We
so
get
true.
take a little misstep, and then we get lost in the woods for weeks or months or years, convincing ourselves that it's too hard and I can't start over, rather than just reorienting ourselves in the direction we intended to go. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You're one
Yeah.
decision away from that reorientation.
I love the driving in the car is a really good analogy. I've heard it recently too, that the navigation in your car, you take a wrong turn, it doesn't berate you and then send you home again.
That's so true.
It just reorients you.
Yeah.
The arrow changes and goes, okay, you missed it this way now. And you're like, oh, thank you. Like that. If only we
Absolutely.
treated ourselves with that level of one turn,
Yep.
that's all it is. Yeah.
That's all it
Oh,
is.
a little bit related to what we've just been talking about, Courtney. So many people feel stuck in this start, stop, repeat cycle with their habits. What is it about your consistency code framework that helps break that cycle and replace it with something more sustainable?
Yeah. So the start, stop cycle, I think, is very diet mentality, like conditioning, because it's literally kept diets alive for how many years? Because we feel like when we stop doing the thing, we stopped following the plan, we had a bad day, we then have to start over. And we start over by signing up for a new plan and a new protocol, and on it goes. And the industry just keeps expanding and never dies. So I think there is that in part. And when I created the framework for consistency code, it's really interesting. I was working with a business coach at the time. So this was about probably 12 years ago now. And I was already in a space where I was incredibly frustrated with the wellness industry, because I felt like we were just teaching people always to follow plans and protocols and kind of outsource wellness information, when I really felt like so much of the healing happens by insourcing, like returning to your own knowing, honoring what you actually know is true for you, making decisions based on your actual life, right? Making things fit within the context and the wholeness of your life.
Yeah.
And I was working with a business coach, as so many business coaches did. She was trying to encourage me to kind of sell weight loss and the kind of the sexy part of health, right? Which isn't what I was selling. I was selling the very unsexy part of the health equation, which is what I still do, but I'll never change. Like, this is the hill I will die on.
Yes.
And I remember her saying to me at one point, she said, okay, Courtney, if you could only teach someone 4 things, I want you to go away and really think about what those 4 things would be, because she was trying to get a better understanding of what I teach. And so I went away for the weekend and I was like, okay, what are the like basic buckets of skill sets that I'm constantly addressing with my clients? And it boiled down to 4 things: awareness, organization, follow through, and then the practice of realignment, because we all get lost in the woods, right? And when I was playing with those 4 skill sets, I was like, oh, and Also, almost every problem you come across in your wellness journey, because you will encounter lots of problems and obstacles, can be answered in one of these four buckets. So when I get misaligned, what's the answer? I have to become aware of why I'm misaligned. Because
Mm,
with that awareness, I can organize myself differently. And when I'm organized well, I can actually follow through with what I said I would do. And then I
interesting.
stay the course for a while. And inevitably, what happens is I get misaligned again, because that's life, that's being human. And so
Mm,
it like becomes this wheel that just keeps turning, that we are all somewhere in those four practices at all
at a
times.
given time, yeah.
And the answer is, if like we're stumbling in one of those practices, to either probably go to the practice right before it or the practice right after it, because it's going to bring us right back into turning in that wheel.
Mm,
Kind of like, I think of like the hamster on the wheel, which is a terrible analogy, but it just keeps the wheel turning.
yeah.
Um, and that's really what the consistency code offers. So it's not, I always say, I was for about a decade in the business of teaching people how to create a lifetime, like a once in a lifetime transformation, right? Like I
Mm,
was in the world of fat loss very deeply. I helped a
mm,
lot of people lose a lot of weight, and they had the Instagram worthy
mm,
transformations.
mm,
What I realized by being in that world for a decade, and also mainly working with kind of the midlife population, which is really interesting because the midlife population is dealing with more stress than they've ever had, and they
yes.
have the least amount of hormones on board to contend with that stress. So it's
Yes.
a fascinating population. But what I realized is, hang on a second. People don't need a once in a lifetime transformation. They need skills for navigating a life of transformation, because that's what
Mm,
life is. I became a mother. That was a huge transformation. All right. I went through perimenopause. I became a business owner. I got married. Like, all of these are massive transformations. And to try to convince somebody that their self care should look the same in every one of those transformations is absolutely insane.
mm,
And it sets them up for the stop and start cycle, right? Of like, oh, well, I got married. I had a lot on my plate, so I couldn't do anything. And now I'll get back to it once we get back from the honeymoon, whatever it is, right? We play
yeah.
that game. And it's like, well, no, what if you could just devote yourself to self care every single day with the willingness to let it look different based on how your
Mhm,
life is rolling, right? So you
yeah.
would kind of avoid the start cycle, because it's just shifting. It's up, down shifting. It's speeding up. Sometimes we have to dial up the discipline. Sometimes we have to dial it down. But I'm never completely stopping. I'm just allowing myself to adjust. Like, even if, like, I'll go to a really extreme example. Even if you let's just say you got COVID, or a loved one died, or gosh, heaven forbid, your house burnt down, right? These are major life events. And obviously, no one's going to be expecting you to, you know, prepare yourself a healthy meal and go to the gym at 6 a.m.
Mm,
But maybe self care in those situations looks like feeling the grief, or it
mm,
looks like asking for a helping hand, asking someone to cook you a meal.
yeah.
Right? Maybe it looks like, I don't know, letting go of expectations. It can look like a thousand things, but
Mm,
we have this way of always thinking of wellness as diet and exercise.
yeah,
And
so
the way
true.
that I frame wellness is radically different. It's really understanding that health and wellness is an exercise in stress management. And
Mm,
stress comes into your life in a thousand different ways. Yes, it
mm,
can come in through food, from how much you eat, how little you eat, what you eat, all the things. It can come in through movement, for sure, over exercising, under exercising, being sedentary all day. But stress can also come in through our relationships,
mm,
and we're in relationship with everything in our life. It
yes.
can come in through our thoughts. It can come in through the environments we live in or we spend
Mm,
time in.
mm,
It can come in through our sense of purpose, or not feeling like we have a sense of purpose.
yeah.
So there's a lot that's being contributed to the stress bucket. So where can we remove unnecessary stressors?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the question. Unnecessary stressors would be like, do you need to stay up and watch the 20th episode of your Netflix show tonight when you have to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow?
Mm,
Right? That's probably unnecessary stress.
mm,
But the second part of the equation is deciding and asking yourself, where do I need to start leaning into stress on purpose? because
And
there's
what
a
would
name
you
for this, eustress. Eustress is the type of stress that fortifies us, makes us more resilient. Strength training is a great example. It literally
mm,
makes the human body stronger.
yeah.
Setting
You as
boundaries.
in EU stress?
Sorry.
EU stress, is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'd
Exactly.
forgotten.
So I call it on purpose stress. It's purpose
Mm,
I'm intentionally choosing to lean into because I
mm,
know there's benefit on the other side.
yeah.
Having a difficult conversation, applying for that job I've always wanted, starting the business I've been dreaming about,
Mm,
putting myself to bed earlier. For some people, that can feel a little stressful, right? Because
yeah.
you've got to set boundaries with your family or you have to say no to something.
Mm,
So, again, the health equation is really about reducing unnecessary stressors,
hmm.
but also leaning into intentional stressors, on purpose stressors.
Yeah, that's a really novel way to look at it. Wellness and health is managing stress, stress
It hugely
management.
is. Yeah.
Yep.
It always boils like every topic in the health arena, hormones and inflammation and dis-ease or disease, it
Mm,
always links back to stress, all of it.
mm.
And
But I
so I'm
really
not
like
saying it's
the
the
way,
only player, but it's a major player.
no, but I also appreciate the way you've just framed stress as not just pressure at work,
That's
which
not a
is,
bad thing, right? It's
yeah,
not all
yeah.
entirely a bad thing.
No,
It
but
can be.
also, yeah, but it's also that thing of often I'll go to bed really tired, but I think tired in the challenge of my own choosing today means that I'm just going to have really great sleep as opposed to completely overwhelmed, misaligned, not happy with decisions I made, really
Yeah.
kind of feeling out of whack stress. It's a totally different
I think
scenario,
a
isn't
really
it?
simple way, maybe for listeners to reframe it too, is the stress that I'm practicing right now or acquiring,
Mm-hmm.
is it promoting wellness or is it promoting disease? Because
Mm,
that's also very clear, right? Like most of the choices we make are either nourishing us or depleting us. And if
yeah,
you can choose more things that nourish you, you're probably going to be pretty darn healthy.
that's a very helpful framework. And it's a very supportive mind frame, isn't it? To think, is this moving me towards nourishment or is this
Yeah.
moving me towards a lack of ease, dis-ease in my mind, in my body?
Yeah. And circling back to like the question you asked me earlier, like what was a habit I was trying to break? Was that reactivity? And I
Mm,
know for me, when I am reactive, it's not just depleting me, it's depleting everyone around me because the
mm,
energy I'm coming at it with, right? And so that's not how I want to move through the world. Like not by a long shot. And so extending that pause, which is so in a way stressful for me because it's so not my practice. It's something I'm
yeah,
having to learn and be okay
yes.
with being uncomfortable with. But
Mm,
the benefits have been immense. Like just giving myself permission to be with that discomfort. Like I can
mm,
really see how much gentler my life is and how much
mm.
gentler I am. And I feel better about my choices. And so I know that that's really nourishing. It's moving me in the direction of nourishment to extend the pause.
And you've got the evidence because of how good it feels, even though it's
Definitely.
uncomfortable, but the after effects of extending the pause and then the outcome after that is feedback for yourself that, oh, this is nourishing. I am on the right track here for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
that's
and that's
really,
a great point. Like you just know, like you know on a visceral level when
mm,
something is nourishing you or depleting you because you can
yeah,
feel it in your body, right?
yeah, I
You
agree.
either feel peace, which is a word a lot of my clients use when they're feeling healthy, they feel peaceful.
Mm,
um so you're either feeling peaceful and calm and optimistic and like a problem solver, or you're focusing on problems, not solutions. You're
mm.
feeling heavy and stressed and tense and anxious. So the difference is usually pretty clear to people.
Yeah, it's really a lovely reminder to drop into that level of self-trust that your body does know. And I think, for me, maybe the least helpful narrative when I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed is a bit like, I can't manage all of this. Why me?
Yeah.
Nobody's helping, and it sort of becomes this sort of external blame game. my work is too much, my,
Yep.
whatever it is. And then that doesn't feel good physically either. That, I get physical feedback from that, that I think, yeah. So just that reminder that your body does know whether
Yeah.
it's moving you towards a lack of ease, away from alignment, or towards nourishment. And I think even that grief example that you used of nourishment, self-care, have a big cry, or order takeaway for dinner, like
Yep.
whatever it is that feels like you're caring for yourself in that moment until you're back on your feet and feeling better.
Yeah.
That's safety, and that's a trust that, tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah. And it's
Mm,
also, even sometimes it's saying no to things we want to say yes to. Like,
yeah.
I'm such a yes girl. I want to do all the things in my lifetime. Like,
Mm,
I get excited by things really easily. And there's a beauty to that. And there's also a dark side to that.
mm,
And the
mm,
dark side is if I say yes at a time when I'm already low on resources,
yeah.
I will feel overwhelmed and resentful and agitated and all the things. And I've done it
Mm,
enough times that now when I have to say no to something I really want to say yes to, I just remind myself it's a no for now. Not
yeah.
forever, but for now.
For now, I think that's really helpful to just say, there'll be another opportunity like this. And I've had to
Yeah.
train myself with that as well. I also think working in your own business, we're trained to kind of take opportunities where they are, and we can get
Yeah.
ourselves into a bit of trouble there. But yeah, that they're really, really powerful insights. We've spoken a lot about sort of similar ideas, Courtney, but in your book, you teach practices like befriend your emotions and parent your brain. And I love that phrase, parent your brain. Could you walk us through one or two of these in a way that listeners could actually try today to
Yeah.
move away from chaos and towards clarity?
Yeah. So befriending emotions is basically allowing yourself as a human to feel the full spectrum of what it means to be human. And that
Mm-hmm.
means feeling every emotion in your lifetime, probably more
Mm,
than once. But
mm,
what we do is we tend to hide and escape emotion, right? So if let's just say I'm feeling angry. So instead of feeling angry, I might go, I don't know, eat something or drink
mm,
something or watch
mm,
something or scroll or buy something. I'm of kind of avoiding the truth of my life. I'm trying to
mm,
kind of shut anger out
mm.
by chemically altering how
And
I feel right
distracting.
now.
Mm,
Now, the
mm.
problem with that is, of course, the chemical alteration is very short lasting. And
Yeah.
so eventually that anger is going to get louder at the door. It's going to knock
Mm,
harder because the problem
mm,
had like the whatever anger came for, there's always a reason. It's a messenger.
yeah. Mm,
And
mm,
if that hasn't been addressed or resolved, it doesn't just go away completely. Now, it might quiet down for a while. It might not be as robust for a while, but eventually it's going to come back if you haven't addressed why it showed up in the first place. So I
mm,
always say to my clients, look, I just want you to imagine like a big dinner table and you invite your emotions to the table and you're just inviting them in for coffee or tea. You're not inviting them to move in. Okay.
mm,
They're just an afternoon guest. They're coming in. You're going to ask them some good questions to just get some intel about what they need, why they showed up. And then when you have that information, you can just send them on their way, and you can decide what you want to do now with that information.
mm,
Versus letting them come in with all their luggage and all their belongings and set up camp and never leave. Because I think that's what
mm.
we kind of kid ourselves into believing. If I allow myself to feel sad, I'm never going to pull out of sadness.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. So, for like an applicable, I think really tangible skill set around this is first and foremost to try to start naming emotions because most people are so detached from their emotional landscape. They kind of use the same three words all the time. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm annoyed. I don't know what your
Yeah.
three words are, but the emotional landscape of a human is enormous. And if
Mm,
we can just kind of start recognizing, first, maybe not even naming it, but just recognizing what it feels like. Like,
yeah.
I feel hot right now. My hands are feeling a little sweaty. My heart's racing a little bit. Like, just describing to myself the experience of whatever it is I'm feeling. If I can name
Mm,
it, awesome.
yeah.
But it's just giving yourself permission to feel what you feel.
Mm.
without judging it. You're just describing it. You're just acknowledging it. That's it. That's a great starting place. And that's all, as far as people go for a long time sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Is just
But it's better than
describing
nothing.
it
Yeah.
and naming it. And then eventually, hopefully, we get to the point of actually being able to just ask, why is it here? Right?
Mm.
Why am I feeling lonely? Well, I've been behind a computer screen for a week and I haven't made any time to connect with anybody. Kind of makes sense.
Mm.
So knowing that, maybe it's time to reach out to somebody, right? Invite a friend to lunch. Maybe it's time to take the weekend off and just spend it connecting with loved ones.
Mm.
Right? Like what do my emotions need from me? That's what befriending emotions is. Because we
Mm.
tend to cherry pick. I only want to feel good all the time. And honestly, our culture celebrates it and sells it, right? We can get pleasure whenever we want because we can just buy it. It's a click away. We can eat things, drink things, all the things to just feel something different. But I'm a big believer that if we don't let ourselves feel the fullness of what a lot of people would classify as the harder emotions, we also never feel the height of the good ones, like the
Yeah.
ones that we want to feel more of. So if you can't feel your grief, you probably can't feel the height of your joy.
Wow, that's really powerful.
Like if you don't let yourself sit with anger, I'm willing to bet you probably don't allow yourself complete happiness either.
Mm.
Right? Like there's always a cost on both sides. So can we be with emotion and not make it mean horrible things? Anger doesn't mean I'm broken. It means something that I really care about was maybe threatened. So maybe I just need to get clear on what that was, right? Just to get to know myself a little bit better. But I don't have to make it mean that, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person because I feel anger. Well, no, you're not a terrible person. Now, if you act on your anger, you can do some terrible things, but that's where the pause comes in, right? Is can I separate the emotion from like the reaction to the emotion? I don't need to react to it. I just need to be with it and acknowledge it.
Yeah, we do this work with kids, don't we? That all feelings are okay, all actions are not okay, though. So it's
Yes, it's just so
and
simple and
and I
so well
think
said.
also I think that parenting your own brain or befriending your own emotions is one side of that. But if I think about where we've gotten these messages that it's not good to be angry or sad, it's because of the reaction that we've received from other people when we've had those
Of
emotions. So,
course. Yep,
you know,
we learned it.
yeah, and I think that's a really great reminder for people who are parents or have got young people around that when they're sad, we can't say things like, or it's not helpful to say, don't cry. I don't
Yeah,
like when you're sad, or don't, because then it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to be sad. I need to
yeah.
move through this quickly, and I think, yeah, so there's one part of that that I'm really connecting with that's parenting myself and also parenting the other people around me who are experiencing emotion that sit with it, invite it in for a cup of tea. It's
Just hold
okay.
space
It's
for it
not
with them, right?
forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the
And
parenting the
respecting
brain
yourself.
piece is really closely related to the emotions because we generate so much unnecessary suffering by the way we think about our lives. So let's just say, like, I don't know, I launch a new program and nobody buys it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could make that mean that I'm a terrible business person. I should never have started a business. I've wasted so much time. Like we could write an Oscar nominated script around this,
Yes,
right? That would
yes,
just
yes.
pull me into the depths of despair. And I
Yeah.
would generate a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. I'm producing that. My
Mm.
life's not producing that. I'm producing it based on the meaning I'm putting on what happened in my life.
Yeah, the story you're choosing to tell
The
about it.
story I'm
Yeah.
choosing to tell myself. So I always say to my students, like, I want you to think of your stories like a piece of art. And
Mm.
you have the option of removing all the color from the art. So you have a canvas and it's just a line drawing and you remove all the color and you get to redecide how you want to color it. And I
Mm.
highly recommend you color it in a way that's useful to you. Useful, not necessarily positive, right? Because I know we get this message, it's all about positive thinking. I don't think it is at
Mm.
all. I think it's about useful thinking.
Yeah.
So, useful thinking is helping me to move through the problem or through the challenge in a way that I feel good about. If I focus on, let's just say, a difficult family member, and all
Yeah.
I focus on is how terrible they are, all the nasty things they've said, why they shouldn't come to family events, I'm going to show up in a way that makes the experience horrible for everybody because I'm so
Mhm.
focused on the problem being a problem.
Yes.
What's useful to me is maybe thinking about where some of this might be coming from for the other person. Like what else might be true in their life where they show up
Mhm.
this way? Maybe they're really insecure. Maybe they've never really felt love or safety, right? Like what else might be true for them? Now,
Mm.
I'm not doing that to let them off the hook. I'm doing it
No.
to make it easier for me to show up
Yeah.
in a way that
Yeah.
I feel good about.
Yeah.
And that's something very different because the parenting of the brain is really kind of kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of like helping people to understand like the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, right? The
Mm.
amygdala is what is very reactive. It's a very reactive part of our brain. It's great that we have it because it's kept humans alive for
Right.
thousands of
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
But the prefrontal cortex is where we get to think about our stories. We get to
Mm.
think about our thinking. We get to decide what is urgent and what isn't,
Mm.
what deserves like a reaction and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But when you're always stressed out, this is just circling it back to the stress we talked about earlier. When you're living in a heightened state of stress all the time, you shut off the access to the prefrontal cortex. You're not doing your best thinking because your
Mm.
brain is constantly thinking that you're running from a tiger,
Yeah. It's a
right?
fight
And
or
so it's
yeah.
fight or flight. Exactly. And so parenting the brain is really just kind of a nod to the amygdala maybe needing a parent because not
Mhm.
everything is a threat. So if I was going to give a public speech today, I'd be nervous because I'd be
Mm.
thinking about making people happy and is it going to land? And oh my gosh, everyone's going to be staring at me. But my amygdala might be trying to convince me I'm going to die.
Yeah.
If you get up on that stage, your life is over, right? Because that's
Or
how
your
dramatic
career
it
is
can
over.
be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where my prefrontal cortex can come in, the parent, and say, hey, I know you think you're going to die, but you're not. You just need to
Mm.
breathe into it, need to focus on like how much you're going to help even just one person in the audience, right? And
Mhm.
I become, in a sense, my own parent or my own coach. And that's what
Mm.
like self-coaching is. That's what parenting yourself is. It's
Mm.
using these amazing parts of our brain to make sure that we're not writing stories that we don't want to be living.
Mm. Wow. I love it. And it really does go back to your self-leadership idea, doesn't
Yeah.
it? That, to parent yourself, to parent your own brain is to lead your own brain and there's a real self-kindness there. And I almost, the analogy of like holding, like looking at yourself as a little person again, you're 7 again. And what do you need? What does your brain need to believe in this moment to be able to keep going?
Yes. And I mean, the thing is, we can't go back and change anything that happened to us, right?
Mm,
I wish
mm,
we could. And anyone listening who, has childhood trauma or anything of that nature, like my heart goes out to you. Like
yeah.
nobody deserves that.
Mm,
And you have to become the parent maybe you never had.
yeah.
You have to decide as an adult now, moving forward, what you're going to make it mean.
Mm,
Right?
yeah.
Because you're the one who's going to suffer if we don't work on those stories. And so,
Yeah.
and that I think it also goes back to what we were talking about with self-trust. You're never going to follow through with the things you want to be doing for yourself if you don't learn how to parent yourself into the work. Right? Like my
Mm,
kid, he's 16 and he still doesn't want to clean up dog poop and he doesn't want to empty the dishwasher and he doesn't want to do the things. But as the parent, I remind him of why he does those things to help the
mm,
family out and that those are his responsibilities and it's teaching him skills for later in life.
mm,
I know that once he leaves the house, he's not going to have me and he's
mm,
going to have to become his own parent at some
mm,
point
mm.
to keep, growing as a human. And anyway, yeah, I think it's something that's under talked about, I think, in the wellness industry because we're always looking to others as authority. And
I
I want
agree.
my clients and students to look at themselves as authority. And I think
Self-authority,
that my
yeah.
work is giving them those skill sets.
Yeah, and I think the joy of and the importance of the work that you do is that it's reminding people that it's all there, but that it's you're helping them hold up a magnifying glass, and helping them think about things differently. I love that question that your coach asked. What are the 4 things that you
Yeah.
want to teach people? Like, that's a very clarifying question, isn't it? And I love that you said you thought about it over the weekend. And,
Yeah.
those sorts of questions are because you had it all. You just hadn't put language around what was really important. And
It's so
then,
true.
yeah,
And there was a
that's,
whole philosophy there. Like all my standards for what I do were right there. I just needed someone to help guide me to seeing them. And that's what I think a good coach does. A good
I,
coach will ask you pointed questions to help you get to a place where you're like, oh, my clients will joke about this if you ever talk to any of them, but they'll often say to me tongue in cheek, well, I don't know what the next step is. And they know what I'm going to say in response to that. You do know, you probably just don't like the answer.
yeah, that's so true.
Right. And so here you are, like trying to convince me that you don't know. And I'm not co signing on that. I'm not buying
Yeah,
into that. No
yeah.
way.
I'm not co-signing. Do you know one thing you said earlier that I think is really helpful too is that you called it the hamster wheel. Maybe let's talk about it in a nicer analogy that it's like, I don't know, I'm thinking of like a wheel in water,
Yeah.
something
Like a water
um
wheel.
the
It's like,
water wheel. You know what I'm thinking about a beautiful lake with, like a slow. What I like about the wheel though is that
yeah,
your analogy is that it's going to keep turning and you will keep moving through. And so this idea that nothing good and nothing bad is permanent.
yeah,
And so I think we've got this story that where we are, we're there forever. But the wheel is more helpful because you actually can't escape it because that's just sort of what life is. So much more helpful to look at stages and that the next stage is coming and that, you can do some work to get there. And
yeah.
this doesn't feel good, and unfortunately, you'll feel not good again, but there are better times coming and things that we can do. And, I feel like this is a more comfortable place to sit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the problem with the hamster wheel too is it doesn't go anywhere. Where absolutely, like I think of an actual wheel, like
Mm,
when you're in the process of the consistency code, that framework, you're moving forward all the
yeah,
time. You may not be
yeah,
moving at the speed you want or at the distance you
right,
want all the
yeah,
time, but you
yeah,
are always moving forward because you're always getting to know yourself better.
yeah, that's
Um,
lovely. And
One of my
also,
favorite quotes, I do want to share this because I think it's really relevant to what we've been talking about. There's, I don't know who said it, but I use it all the time. It's that life is one long series of problem solving. And the sooner that you come to accept that, the less you will suffer,
mm,
right? Like stop waiting for there to not be any problems because
mm,
that day is not coming. It might come for a
mm,
day, but it's not going
mm,
to stick around. Life
yeah,
is always going to present you with curveballs and challenges. So where are your skill sets for navigating them in a way that you feel good about? That should be everyone's work because
yeah,
that is
I,
the
I
work of being
completely,
human.
I completely agree. And I often think too, English gets us into trouble sometimes. I think the word problem has got such a negative connotation. And I know I'm an academic and, in research, we talk about research problems all the time. They're conceptualized different to when we use them outside of research, that they're big questions, like they're sort of questions to answer and things. This idea that it needs to be solved and that there's something bad and then we need to make it good again is almost too binary and too dichotomous. So,
Yes.
this idea that, we just and my husband's a school principal and sometimes he comes home and really overwhelmed and I've got all these problems to solve and I say to him, unfortunately that's your role description. Like your role description is to solve problems all day.
Right.
So like literally if someone was to print that out it could just say that,
It's
and
so
that
true.
and
And
that's your point of that's actually what life is. And so the tools to be able to be agile and solve them are the biggest gift there. The problems are certainly not going anywhere, and nor would
no,
we want them to, because
yeah,
that's all the different data points of life, which sort of comes back to the different whole spectrum of emotions that we can feel and name and
yeah.
welcome in and then ask what do we need to move through the ones that aren't serving us.
Well, I think to your point too, I think this is really important, is that health is also sold as binary. It's
Mm,
something that we're sold we have or we don't have. And that is
yeah.
so not true. There are
Mm,
parts of your life that are very healthy.
Mm.
And there are parts of your life that need a little more practice and a little more
Yeah.
work and a little bit
Mm.
more effort. And that will always and forever be true. Now,
Yes.
ideally, we'd like more parts to be healthy over time, but will it
Mm.
be true ever that 100% of your life is healthy at all times? Probably not.
No.
Probably not. And so just ditching that notion is,
Mm.
I think, a really powerful, like, health is not binary. It's not something
Yeah.
that you have or don't have. It's something
Yeah.
that's constantly
Mm.
evolving. It's dynamic. It's always changing. So
Mm.
again, where are your skill sets to help yourself stay on top of all that?
Yeah. And lean in when you need to the
Yeah.
different areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic reminder and place for us to finish our conversation, Courtney, which has gone longer than I promised you it would. So thank you
That's
for your
okay. That's
generosity,
fine.
because you have so much gold to share, and I know the listeners would have, gained so much. So where can we find out more about your excellent work? Where can we connect with you? Where can we engage with you?
Yeah, my website, graceandgrit.com, is probably the best place to find all the things. And I think for listeners, if they enjoyed the conversation, check out the book. The book was just
Mm.
launched 6 months ago. And I just feel like it's such an awesome handbook for so many people to have, because it's so much of what we just talked about. So if you're embarking on a big life change or behavior change, or wanting to improve your health in some way, this just kind of gives you a lot of the framework reminders that will help you to navigate all that. And we do have, if you want to just kind of read the first chapter without committing to buying it, people can head on over to graceandgrit.com/free chapter, and they can get the first chapter either as an audible, they can listen to it, or they can
Mhm.
read it.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that little kind of taster. And so the book, just a reminder for our audience, is called The Consistency Code. And I will put a link for it in the show notes, and also obviously a link to Courtney's website. And you can go and find all of her excellent work there. So, Courtney, thank you so much for your time today. It's late in the afternoon where you are, even though it's early morning here in Australia. So I wouldn't know. You are as fresh and as energetic as if it was 9 a.m. But thank you so much for the generosity of the answers that you've given and the insight that you've provided. And it's just been such a joy to meet you.
Oh, same. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for being here for another episode of the Habit Nerd podcast. I am so grateful for your time. If you enjoyed it or gained a fresh perspective, please share it with a friend, or maybe you feel like giving it a 5-star review, which will take you less than 30 seconds. I do love all of my habit nerds, and I see you showing up every day as your wonderful selves. So until next time, take care.